Lewis College of Dental Science and Research lecture series. In this session, we will be dealing with connectors in fixed dental prosthesis. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to obtain an overview of fixed prosthodontics, its need and consequences without rehabilitation. Procure a basic understanding about the steps involved in the lost wax casting technique of FTP fabrication. Comprehend the parts of FTP and classification of connectors in FTP, and obtain an in-depth knowledge regarding various connector designs, indications, and special design features. The loss of a tooth can be a traumatic ordeal for anybody. Whether it's because of trauma, dental caries, or periodontal trouble, tooth loss can hamper a person's confidence and self-esteem. Tooth loss has many ill effects too. The aesthetic impact, the lack of chewing efficiency, phonetics may be affected, and supraeruption is also a risk. In such cases, fixed prosthodontics is one of the most common go-to treatment options. What is fixed prosthodontics? The branch of prosthodontics concerned with the replacement or restoration of teeth by artificial substitutes that cannot be removed from the mouth by the patient. What is a fixed prosthesis? Any dental prosthesis that is luted, screwed, or mechanically attached or otherwise securely retained to natural teeth, tooth roots, or dental implants or abutments that furnish the primary support for the dental prosthesis and restoring teeth in a partially edentulous arch. It cannot be removed by the patient. Fixed prosthodontics includes inlays, onlays, crowns, veneers, and fixed partial dentures. An inlay is a fixed intracoronal restoration, a dental restoration made outside of a tooth to correspond to the form of the prepared cavity, which is then luted into the tooth. An onlay is a partial coverage restoration that restores one or more cusps and adjoining occlusal surfaces or the entire occlusal surface and is retained by mechanical or adhesive means. A crown is an artificial replacement that restores missing tooth structure by surrounding part or all of the remaining structure with a material such as cast metal alloy, metal ceramics, all ceramics, resins, or a combination of materials. This is a diagrammatic representation showing the difference in tooth coverage of various types of FTP options. A veneer or a laminate is a wafer-thin, custom-made shell of tooth-colored material designed to cover the front surface of teeth for aesthetics. Now, what is the need for a fixed dental prosthesis? To restore the grossly damaged tooth, fractured tooth, or a tooth with heavy filling, to restore the masticatory function and speech, to restore the aesthetics in a hypoplastic condition where the hereditary defect or an acquired defect is observed, to maintain the periodontal health by recontouring the occlusion and preventing foot impaction, or to alter the occlusion, that is the occlusal relationship, as a part of occlusal reconstruction to solve occlusal problems or to improve function. Let us have a brief overview on the steps in the construction of cast restorations using the lost wax casting technique. So the first step is preparation of the waxing. Okay. So initially a wax pattern is fabricated using inlay wax or crown wax over a die of the prepared tooth. A sprue former wax is then attached to the wax pattern, and the wax pattern sprue former complex is then attached to a crucible former. This is followed by attachment of a casting ring liner, and then the investment procedure. Once the investment procedure is complete, the casting ring along with the casting crucible, are placed inside a burnout machine. The purpose of the burnout machine is to eliminate all of the wax residue, leaving behind an empty mold space, as well as to increase the temperature of the casting ring and the casting crucible. Once the burnout cycle is complete, the red hot casting ring and the red hot crucible are carefully taken and placed inside the casting machine. Once placed inside the casting machine, metal pellets of the required metal alloy are placed inside the red hot casting crucible. The casting machine is then closed and the metal pellets are then melted into a molten state. Once they have obtained the ideal molten state, they are then pushed into the empty mold space within the investment with the help of a centrifugal force. This is called as a casting cycle. Once the casting cycle is completed, the final metal restoration is obtained, which is then finished and polished as per the requirements. Now let us see what are the parts of an FPD. All basic FPDs are composed of mainly three parts. These parts rest on a foundational base called as the abutment tooth. The retainer is a part of an FPD that is affixed onto the abutment and is attached to the pontic. The pontic is the artificial substitute for the missing teeth, and the retainer and pontic are attached to each other with the help of a connector. So let us now step into the topic for today's session: connectors in FDPs. A connector can be defined as that portion of the fixed partial denture that unites the retainer and the pontic. To classify connectors in FDPs, we have broadly two categories: rigid connectors and non-rigid connectors. Rigid connectors include cast connectors, soldered connectors, and loop connectors. Non-rigid connectors include tenon mortise connector, split pontic connector, and the cross pin and wing connectors. Let us have a look at the rigid connectors. Rigid connectors, as the name suggests, do not allow any movement between the FPD parts. These are indicated when the entire masticatory load is to be transferred onto the abutments. These can be cast as a single piece or soldered individually. These connectors should be large enough to prevent distortion or fracture during function. They should provide adequate access for oral hygiene aids, and there should be no display of metal connector at the aesthetic regions. The tissue surface should be highly polished and curved faciolingually. The ideal dimension of these connectors is 3 mm to 4 mm or closogingivally. These connectors should be large enough to prevent distortion or fracture during function, as too large of a connector can lead to ineffective plaque control and is also unaesthetic. The tissue surface of these connectors should be curved faciolingually for efficient cleaning. Buccolingually, they should be elliptical in shape, and mesiodistally, they should be shaped to create a smooth transition from one FPD component to the other. Anteriorly, the connector should be placed towards the lingual embrasure to ensure aesthetics. Now let's move on to cast connectors. Here, the design is incorporated in the wax pattern before investing. Access to the proximal margin, however, is impeded. Although this requires a simple technique, it is less accurate. Moving on to soldered connectors. Here, the connectors to be soldered are first waxed to the final shape. They are then sectioned with a fine saw so that the surfaces to be joined will be flat, parallel, and at a controlled distance apart. And what about this controlled distance? Also known as the soldering gap width, ideally has to be 0.25 millimeters. If the gap width decreases, the soldering accuracy decreases. A smaller gap, however, will prevent proper solder flow and lead to a weak joint. Now let's have a look at loop connectors. Loop connectors, as the name suggests, contains a loop on the lingual aspect of the prosthesis connecting adjacent retainers or pontics. Loop connectors are indicated when an existing diastema is to be maintained in the prosthesis. This loop can be cast from wax. Moving on to the next category, which is non-rigid connectors. Non-rigid connectors, as the name suggests, allow limited movement between the retainer and the pontic. These are indicated when a parallel path of insertion cannot be achieved in the preparations, a pier abutment clinical situation, or if the abutments are periodontally unfavorable. Almost all the types of non-rigid connectors consist of a male and a corresponding female component. The shape and configuration of the male and female components differ to accommodate the movement between the pontic and the retainer. Now let's have a look at the tenon mortise non-rigid connector. Indicated in a pier abutment clinical situation, these non-rigid connectors have got two segments. The segments can be paralleled with a dental surveyor, and they can be made freehand, milled, or are available as prefabricated plastic patterns. This is a diagrammatic representation of a tenon mortise non-rigid connector. As you can see here, this is the tenon or the male component which is attached to the pontic, and the female component, also known as mortise, which is attached to the distal segment of the pier retainer. Moving on to the split pontic non-rigid connector. Also indicated in a pier abutment clinical situation, this pontic is split into mesial and distal halves, which are attached to their respective retainers. A shoe or a key is incorporated into the mesial half, and the keyway is incorporated in the distal half. This is a diagrammatic representation of the split pontic connector. As you can see here, the mesial segment, which is cemented first, has the distal shoe incorporated in its design. This is a diagrammatic representation of the distal half of this non-rigid connector design. Moving on to the cross pin and wing non-rigid connector. Cross pin and wing non-rigid connectors are similar to the split pontic connector and are used for tilted abutment situations. Here, the wing is attached to the distal retainer, which is cemented first, and the pontic is attached to the mesial retainer, which is cemented thereafter. This is a diagrammatic representation of the distal retainer containing the wing, which is cemented first, followed by the retainer pontic segmented, which is seated finally. And this is a diagrammatic representation of the completed cemented cross pin and wing. Now let's address some frequently asked exam questions. The commonly asked questions from this section of the chapter include classification of connectors, non-rigid connectors, loop connector, and tenon mortise connector. It must be noted here that although these are the frequently asked exam questions, it is highly likely that any connector design can be asked for the exam. This is a recap of the classification for connectors in FDPs. So you have rigid connectors and non-rigid connectors. Rigid connectors include cast connectors, soldered connectors, and loop connectors. Non-rigid connectors include tenon mortise connector, the split pontic design, and the cross pin and wing design. This is an image of a loop connector. A loop connector contains a loop on the palatal or lingual aspect of the restoration and is indicated in a diastema situation which is to be maintained as per the patient's request or for aesthetic requirements. This is an image of the tenon mortis connector, which has the tenon or the male component attached to the distal pontic and the mortis or the female component which is attached to the distal segment of the pia abutments restoration. And that concludes the session. I hope this chapter has been conveyed in clarity. Thank you.